Everyone, welcome to another Animation Friday. Apologize I had to delay this video. Unfortunately, I was pretty busy over the weekend, but I should be caught up by the end of the day as of Sunday. So without further ado, for this particular Animation Friday, I wanted to discuss the importance of nature within animation and how it has sort of impacted animation throughout the years. I think more so nature is really emphasized more within animated film, only because animators have a lot of uh, money that they can sort of work from as far as creating backgrounds and uh, really designing the sort of atmosphere in which the film is supposed to take place in. Uh, so I thought it would be interesting to kind of discuss some things that sort of uh, relate to nature being within animation. So when you look at uh, the animated films that have come out over the years, there has been sort of this emphasis in trying to focus in on a particular environment. For example, the desert, the ocean, forest has been a significantly big one as well. But there has been this need to insert some aspect of nature and in doing so emphasize the beauty of it, which I think is something that in and of itself is sort of an art, especially when you look at the way in which nature sort of constructs itself. You really look at it and go, wow, there is really a significant amount of artistry that can come from these landscapes, these uh, feats of nature that sort of spawned into existence from nature itself. Uh, you sort of see this within a lot of Disney animation, although I think DreamWorks and other studios are starting to sort of take notice into the importance of having that kind of uh, environment really enhanced and really part of the film itself. Uh, Obviously, mountains are something else that's a very big uh, part of nature that is, I would say, uh, somewhat emphasized with an animated film as well. But you could really go down the list and you'll sort of see the importance and sort of the significance of having animation take place within some kind of environment that involves nature. And yes, obviously there have been animated films that focus more so on cities, but when you really look at a significant lineup of these animated films, you'll notice that nature often comes up more so. And again, I think the fact that a lot of animators are able to go within these environments and really kind of create their own interpretation of those environments is really what helps as far as envisioning the film and where it sort of is supposed to take place. Um, and again, you'll sort of see how they get their ideas as far as sort of reconstructing the nature that is sort of presented to them. And it's really stunning what they can come up with because even though something may or may not look realistic, they create sort of an interesting picture. And again, this is where um, nature sort of goes into its sort of own reality when you put it within animation, because obviously you don't draw it usually exactly like how it's presented in real life. So again, it's really a big part of what it sort of uh, presents as far as animation, when you can insert some bits of nature and some uh, angle on that particular um, environment. If you just hone in on it, it really is something that I think gets a lot of people invested. And I think people more so like the idea of having nature inserted into part of animation in that particular environment because it's really something that's interesting and can spawn for a lot of creativity. Um, Even in the more recent films like Zootopia, where they insert the nature uh, and make it sort of part of the city within itself, is also rather interesting. So again, there is a lot of stuff that animators can really play with when they explore nature, and I think it makes sense why too we have so many artists that focus on drawing landscapes and drawing feats of nature themselves, uh, and why they're probably a little bit more emphasized than sort of human civilization, only because they are just so magnificent in the sense of how they just sort of came about through time and through means of science. So it's really a interesting way of looking at animation when you can look at the places in which they inhabit, and usually those places involve some form of nature, some form of environment that is uh, that has a sort of a huge emphasis with nature and uh, with animals and uh, with with landscapes and whatnot. So I think that's just something that's really important to kind of understand and kind of think about, uh, especially if you're really interested in these kinds of things like I am. Like I find it very fascinating, the artistry that really goes into showcasing these kinds of feats of nature and doing it in sort of your own interpretation of it. Uh, and I think it really does work, and is one that I think has made animation so enjoyable, I think, for people to view over the years. Now, obviously, live action does create its own interpretation as well, because again, they show it in the most realistic and beautiful detail as possible. But animation sort of just takes it and makes it into its own thing, but displays sort of the emotional sentiments of what that environment sort of uh, gives to people. And that's in and of itself something that's, I think, has a lot of impact as well. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say about this topic. I'd be more than happy to hear anybody's questions, comments, and concerns. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say for this video. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care.